here. Welcome to another League of Dracula 2025 Round 8, League Phase Round 8, I should say, game. Okay, today we are watching Tarvalar plays the Hunters versus Arternum. Now, they already played the reverse matchup. Sadly, it was at a time that I could not stream, so oh well. Are you... There are enough... Apparently, from what I've heard, Tarvalar won the reverse matchup when it was played. I wonder. It's saying that my camera isn't working from what I can see. I might as well just turn that off for this one. So that you can see the whole screen instead of a blob of black like that. For some reason, it looks as if my laptop's camera isn't working today. For whatever reason. Don't know. Whatever. No matter. It's not about me. It's about these guys. So, Tarvalar has gone with the Oktoberfest start. As you can see. Yeah. As for how these two, since I have not... but this is actually an interesting matchup for me, because I actually haven't been following either of these two players that closely throughout the... That's one downside of the Oktoberfest start. Your presence is much weaker. Well, at least weaker. Not exactly much weaker, but definitely weaker. But one way or another. I have not followed either of these players too closely. Arternum, I have not streamed any... Arternum, I have not streamed any of his games previously that I can recall. Tarvalar, I looked through my playlists, and in fact, I think I can say for sure, because I looked through my playlist to see what I could find about these two. And while I did find one game with Tarvalar involved, I mean, Tarvalar is not a newcomer to the community. He competed in the Duels and Dark Halls tournament, and I think in the League of Dracula 2024, I think that he was one of those who sadly did not make the cut in League of Dracula 2024. Not sure, but both of them have been doing pretty well. That before the reverse matchup, I mean, as of the end of round 7, they both stood at 8-6, 8 wins, 6 losses. So. Yeah. I mean, as a result, you likely get the, that's, so, Arternum, as I said, I have not streamed or watched anyone else streaming him so far, nor have I played any friendly matches with him. So to me at least, he is a complete mystery. So this will be interesting. And well, as I said, they ended the 7th round with equal scores of 8 wins, 6 losses. So presumably they are rather evenly matched. But we shall see what happens. So I know very little about these guys' like Hunter to Dracula preferences. Or like whether they are especially skilled in one or the other. But I know that Tarvalar. Oh, hello. Okay, so we're going with Tarvalar. Arternum is going with the is trying to counter the Oktoberfest start by going with the like early southern Spain to to not guarantee mature a hoax or a vampire, depending on how quickly the hunters move. I miss what they scouted there. I'm sure that they would have done with Granada, but we know that for anyone paying more attention, you now know where Dracula is, because he will have checked some combination of these three, as they are the only options, and you'll know that the one thing he didn't check is the answer. I was rambling on a bit too much to pay enough attention on that scouts. So that'll definitely be annoying for Arternum. Very interesting to use Jonathan Harker to search like that. I suppose when you're doing Oktoberfest start, searches are more valuable, because if you find it, and Jonathan Harker isn't much use if he's started even reasonably far away. Like, even starting as far away as, say, as an example, Bordeaux or even Clermont-Ferrand, he would need to use some sort of, so long as it's at least 3 rows away from the Munich, there's no guarantee that he will have that he will need some form of event spending to carry out his final mission to destroy it. A place that is also not connected to the rails, to this rail, so Cologne would not count for that. Would not, but that is like what? But that is that and really it's only Cologne that is exempt from that rule. And maybe Leipzig. Let's see. Yeah, the rail lines. Yeah, Cologne and Leipzig are exempt, but that's 2 roads away, so not 3. Yeah, so there's no. Apart from that, there's no. Like, anywhere but Cologne that's 3 spaces away from Munich, they will have to spend at least 2 days to get to, or spend events, in which case it's something of a trade-off. So that's really not the biggest deal, as I see things. At least that's how I would see it, as Dracula. Like, for instance, if they had to spend a Hunter event to prevent you getting a Dracula event, 1 event for 1 event. Not to mention that they would either spend a stake or it also get delayed, so they have to spend time as well. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. And much to say with an aristocratic vampire. As for a reckless vampire, that might be a little bit different. I wonder if... Is Arternum just thinking before setting the trail? Because... Okay, there it goes. I was beginning to get a bit concerned that perhaps my Wi-Fi or something had crashed again, like last time I streamed. I have no, which again for the record, I have no idea what caused that to happen. So yeah, I checked all the causes of that effect that I personally know of, and none of them seem to be true. So it seemed to just be kind of random. Okay. So however, Tarvalar found the trail quickly. That's good. It is good that he knows where he is, but this Druid token puts a little bit of pressure on him, because if he wants to get there in time, even with perfect horse rolls from Marseille to Saragossa and then to Cadiz, he will only just get there in time. And that of course applies to any other hunter there. Now, let's see. Is there any faster way than that is also just safer? I mean, if they horse to Marseille, and then they could do a chartered carriage to Madrid. Okay, I'm not sure why you're moving, Godalming. If you're gonna be, if you don't have horses, you should be digging for them, because if you don't have the necessary events to get there, it's possible that he has chartered carriage, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and then he will possibly risk a horse roll for the last one, or do. My second guess was that he would have that, but I mean, granted, there are 2 copies of that. I suppose the fact that he's had long enough to supply that Seward has enough items, has full item inventory. I'm not sure if I approve of moving this early, because this can mean that the hunters are a bit too weak and don't really have the strength they need to, the strength and resources they need. Okay, hired scouts. Madrid, and he's at Saragossa. Okay. So Seward, if he has the second sense of emergency, can get to Cadiz next turn. But the question is, should he do that? Should he spend 2 events doing that, and also unblock the direct route out of Spain? Now, if I were Dracula, I would... would I wolf form? I think most likely what I would do is I would go to Barcelona. You're out of reach of a chartered carriage because it goes on the rails in this case, good though they are, go a bit of a roundabout way and can't quite reach that far from Milan. I mean, with a renewed vigor, it could happen, but... yeah, Barcelona, possibly Santander. Basically, but Barcelona is a little bit more, you might say, a little more threatening to the hunters, because that will be at least 4 encounters that he's leaving behind. And wolf form out of the mid is not exactly easy to track down, especially if you were to play real risky and wolf form into Granada. Because I would assume, as Dracula, I would assume that if you were to go to sea after going to Barcelona, they might just choose to let the rumor token go, because this moves here, you go to sea, this goes here, you wolf on shore into Granada, and then this moves off, wiping all the trail, and you go right back to Cadiz. It's a very tricky play. It would be definitely a gamble, especially since Granada is a siege nuke location. Okay, so he does have the chartered carriage. Okay, but in this case, I would simply be going to Barcelona, and with both Seward and Godalming, I assume Seward is going to commit to moving further into Spain. Oh, okay. Revealing a horse. Interesting. Alright. I might have checked Barcelona, depending on what that last event is, and what Van Helsing might be able to trade him. The thing is, if he did go to Barcelona, he can now move to Toulouse. Yeah, Mina's working on improving her hand because she can call for Harker if she needs help. Since she has surprising return, Tarvalar can call for help, backup if he needs it. Oh, Godalming being delayed. Now that is unpleasant for the hunters. I suppose he'll just rest, won't he? Either that or work on trains. By the looks of things, it would appear that he has all the white ones. Otherwise, he would be ticketing. I'd guess. Whoa! Okay, that's a rare sight. Full power mystic research. So he has 6 night supplies with. Oh, Mia found a horse. So that's where horse number 2 is. Discarding the stake. Oh boy. Mia's definitely scary if she's going to discard a stake. Yeah, the fact that he is found early doesn't really mean much. And the thing is, if he is, we know that we know that since he went to Madrid, we know that Dracula is currently located at a port. Why not hide at the port? Because then you can go to sea, and if Cadiz matures, I admittedly you will not get the hide card back, which is a shame, but oh well. And you'll have especially if you, and that will be one more encounter for them to worry about. And also it threatens you, actually being like moving to Toulouse or from Barcelona or going to Bordeaux. Ah, hey there, Terminator. Yes, indeed. Van Helsing has done his research this game. No Dracula events discarded. So he has, I believe at this point, I think Mia did 1 night supply, so 5 left. So long as Tarvalar keeps track, it will be very interesting. Okay, Seward did roll his horse well, so he can reach Cadiz in time. Okay, what type of vampire is this, is the important question. We have had a stake discard, albeit only recently. I actually would continue supplying with Van Helsing, unless he's like holding the 3rd horse in 2 Heavenly Hosts or something like that, and therefore has to get someone to trade. A daytime trade. And you do have night supplies, I'll grant you that. Okay. Going to Marseille is... I agree that going to Marseille is an excellent move. Because whether it's a hide in Barcelona, Alicante, or Alicante, or even Santander, or like... Basically, if Dracula is about to go to sea, Marseille is an excellent place to be. Okay, it was another aristocratic vampire, so he got delayed, but that doesn't matter, at least not long term. At this time of the game. Yeah, so now he gets misdirect back. So after Saragossa, we know they went to a port, and as they were both sitting at Toulouse at the time. But what we don't know is, where is he now? Did he move into Toulouse after they vacated it? Entirely possible. Did he go Santander, Bordeaux? Or is it just a hide card at one of said ports? Or is it, for that matter, Lisbon from Santander? If I were Drac, I might be Oh. Misdirecting that? I don't exactly get the point behind that. Because Seward's there and delayed, so it's not as if it's going to be vacated anytime soon. He knows you're not there. I wouldn't say that for the lair. That's a bit strange. Okay, so it was Santander that you went for. Given the wolf form, I suppose that makes sense. That one makes the most sense. The Barcelona would also be a spicy play. So now he's wolf form from Bordeaux, therefore is likely at either. Honestly, he's almost certainly going to be at Geneva. I mean, if he went to Paris or Le Havre, he could now. If he's at Le Havre with that wolf form, he could hide and then you know, when try to kill that Van Helsing when he lands on him. Hello, half empty dope. If you don't mind me calling you that for short, if that's apologies if that's off. All right, reckless vampire in Bordeaux. Suppose it makes sense, laying down vampire so that if they had stumbled into him, they would have had to, yeah, I suppose that likely is a bot. Yeah, those things are a nuisance, the Terminator, to be sure. Mesmerize into dodge. Ooh, that's good for. There's a mix as to whether that's good or bad for the reckless vampire, because on the one hand, he can still try to escape. On the other, so you may want to mesmerize again. On the other hand, it means that that's one fewer thing that can block fangs. So therefore, you might feel a little bit more secure just claiming a point. Okay, going for the fangs, and he gets it, but at the cost of Mina escaping. Okay, so that's first point for that's Arternum on the board. So, yeah, hiding at. If he wolf formed to La Havre is now about to hide there, that would be a very spicy play. Because the thing is, they wouldn't know that for sure until Van Helsing landed. So Mia would be the only one able, unless they did a speed telegraph. Okay, Goldaming has a knife and a rifle. Good to know that. I would have simply shown one or the other, not both. Goldaming's still at full health. Taking 2 is not a big deal. There will be plenty of nights where you have nothing to do, and therefore can heal. So I disagree with that, with how he showed everything. Okay, Mina staking the reckless. Makes sense that he would have a stake after he discarded one earlier, so that's 2 stakes accounted for now. Yeah, why on earth did he misdirect that? That was going to become a lair and help him with his encounter economy. I just don't understand that one. Very intriguing, to be sure. And he's got nothing he wants to put in a lair. I mean, it's possible. It is possible that, but then he can simply click the mature button and not bother with not bother calling their attention to it. Even though there's no encounter card, you can still choose to mature a location. So, I just don't understand that. It is true that it's possible that he's got nothing he wants to put into a lair. But this early in the game, I would think that unlikely. Unlikely, but it is possible. Yeah. So, what would be the interesting play? Of course, I have already mentioned is if he will form to Le Havre, and is now at and is now hiding there, waiting for Van Helsing to just walk right onto him, or rather land right on top of him for a nice one-on-one. Hopefully, which he will. Hopefully, I am guessing he's hoping. Okay, if that had been the case, he likely would have been hoping to get an easy escape as Bat or something like that. Unfortunately, Psychic Scan doesn't tell you nearly as much now as it did before. I suppose it actually does. There is the possibility that he's actually hiding at Lisbon, and that would actually explain the misdirect. He doesn't want the hunters to know that he's going back into Spain. So what are you going to discard here? Okay, speed telegraph? Interesting. To be honest, given the possibility of him being at Le Havre, and Van Helsing and hiding there, I think I might have just played that if I were Mina, so that you at least can react to it if it does end up being the case. Yeah, from how they're behaving, I would say that either... Oh. Whoops. That's a mistake by Arternum. He should have ambushed with those rats, knowing that Seward had those dogs. Mind you, chances are Tarvalar would have just accepted the 2 damage anyway. But that it would have at least done 2 damage. Yeah, because of it. So the wacky thing that Arternum could be doing is he misdirected Cadiz because he wolf formed back into Lisbon, because he was never there. Unless that was his starting location, that is. And he could be hiding there even now. And now he could be about to move back into Cadiz. A psychic scan won't... Okay, he isn't Gaia, so that rules out that theory. So, let's see. 2 away from Bordeaux. That is not Marseille. We know it's not Marseille because that's where Mina came from when she went to Bordeaux. After Dracula vacated it. I am going to guess that it's Geneva and then Strasbourg. I'm guessing that he went to Geneva, and therefore the wolf horn itself is not in front. Yeah, I mean, with Paris checked, that's the only Geneva is the only 2-road location left. Yeah, so Mina is being left behind to supply for the last horse. Oh, Van Helsing has it. Okay, never mind. She's not exactly being left behind to supply for the last horse. She's simply gonna wait for it. Mina has a newspaper reports. Nice to know. So it was at Geneva. Interesting. Okay, so Van Helsing. I mean, who knows what he's got. So this, and then from Geneva, it can only be Clermont-Ferrand or Strasbourg for a location that's in France. I suppose then Mia had vacated Marseille, so it could be there. But I imagine that we will have that one checked quickly enough. Fangs into dodge. Okay. Claws into knife. Alright, well, at the very least, it's nice to know he has the knife, and you're still doing damage. And what's more, the knife on its own does not kill the vampire. So, I would just use... It looks like Van Helsing does not have a stake and is trying to just kill this by old-fashioned way. Strength? Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that move. Okay, it's possible that Van Helsing is actually not playing aggressive, per se. It's possible he's just playing to just have there be no fang point. With dodge, knife, dodge, like that. Yep. He's just playing anti-fang, is what's going on. So therefore, what I would do next, as the vampire, is, okay, I think that's one option, but I would have done, would have potentially suggested a plotting after such a obvious pattern. But I suppose, what would you search for other than that? I suppose you could get another strength, to guarantee that you can parry the knife or punch, whichever one he chose to do. Okay. That's Aggie. Oh, that's scary. Yeah, that's definitely a bit spooky for Dracula. So he is a wolf one's worth away from Geneva. I would actually not blame him. Well, since they psychic scan this, I would not misdirect this. But what I would do is, if they do not discover where this location, not this coming Dracula phase, but the following one, I would misdirect this one if they still haven't found it by then, because I am Nexus positive that this is Strasbourg. What other France location would he go to that? Because we know it's in France. It could be Marseille, for the record. And he could have just chosen to hide right now. And if that is the case, what if you go to Genoa? Hide at Marseille, go to Genoa. Or maybe you jump right in the middle of them right here. Because surely, Godalming will check Strasbourg, given what they know. So Van Helsing does not have a stake, important to note. So we still have a rumored reckless sitting around there. And melee at 1 health, so would be easier to go against, but okay. Not Strasbourg. Wow. I think that's... Marseille is obviously the next most likely thing, but it could... Yeah, it was Marseille. No hide card. He could have been moving up through Clermont-Ferrand and is now at Nantes. If they recognize the fact, they can check whether that is the case now. Because if Van Helsing moves to Clermont-Ferrand, there is literally no other possibility, because until just a moment ago, they were sitting at Paris and at Toulouse, meaning that there is no other route. That being said, there is, of course, the casual move up Zurich or Milan to Munich, basically to this area. Arternum, despite how close... Arternum is actually playing similar to how, like, myself or Strider often does. What? Not Genoa? Okay. Because we hug right next to the hunters in the location they are least likely to check. That's something that both myself and Strider have a tendency to do. Okay, but it wasn't as sneaky as Clement Ferrand. That I would have given him a complete round of applause if he had dared to try that. That would have been hilarious to see. But yeah, there's still Zurich. There is Milan. Yeah, it's narrowed down to Zurich or Milan for next location. And in that case, the misdirect doesn't really give you much. Yeah, so hoax. Okay. So Seward's delayed. I like how Arternum's been making use of his reckless vampires. Not reckless. Aristocratic vampires and hoaxes to simply solve it. Simply stand as makeshift saboteurs, so to speak. So Geneva still needs to be cleared, which I'm guessing that's what that. I'm guessing that Mina will be dealing with that. I don't know. For all we know, the remaining two stakes could still be in the 15 card deck that's left. I don't know. Eyeing people in Twitch chat. Where do you think Dracula is? Any predictions? And also, where do you think he's moving to now? I mean, this is starting to get a bit to the point where it might get rather dangerous for Tarvalar, because he almost has his wolf form back. It'll only be this move and then one more, and then he'll have it back. Okay, you think he's at Nuremberg currently, and is moving to where? Terminator says to Nuremberg. So he thinks it's Zurich to Nuremberg, and now he's going to go to Leipzig. Head for so I'm guessing that you're saying overall that he's heading to North Sea, so that he's gonna go to England. Yes. Which I agree that definitely makes some sense. However, if he is going that way, it is definitely worth mentioning that Arternum will definitely have to be very careful about how good the rail connections in this arc here, because he can move normally. He can move with a 3-2 ticket all the way up to the Marseille. Zurich can move all the way up to Cologne in one jump without using any events. You think he's taking some time here because he's considering risking a Prague move? Possible. I mean, the fact that and honestly, considering the fact that the hunters have not yet gone through the entire item deck, that actually might not be the worst of gambles, because yeah, there's still 15 cards left. The chances of one of the let me see, how many item cards are there total? Everyone has a full hand, so the hundreds can hold 13, 25, 37. There are 37 item cards at it. So that's only a few less than 50% of the deck left. What are the chances that at least one of those is a Heavenly Host, and that it is not going to be a nuke? That being said, it will still be very bad if that does happen. But what if it's not? The hunters will have to make it. Hunters, due to how many of them can move and the sort of movement they have, will have to make a bit of a guess, unless he sends Gul'daming directly to Prague. Yeah, so yeah, we have one prediction. Will determine A be correct that he is going to be moving to Leipzig, or that Nuremberg is considering Prague? I don't find that all that unlikely, because going north leads you away from leads you a good distance away from hunters who don't have a good movement. The question is how far north, because as I mentioned, the rail lines in this area, like southern France into or wouldn't check a 54 just confirm Spain? Here's the thing. When Seward was on Toulouse when he moved on to Marseille, is the thing. Before, so when, yeah, car don't shoot. The situation was that they were at Geneva, Paris, Bordeaux, Toulouse at the beginning of the day when they discovered Marseille. So, so there were definitely very few options. No problem. Car don't shoot. But car don't shoot. Do you have a prediction? Which way is? Where is he? Where is he? So from Marseille, 2 moves. He has already been through Geneva. It cannot be Toulouse or Clermont-Ferrand or Genoa next. So therefore, we know that it's one of these two who has the first card. That's next. But what's this one? And also, where is he going to go with this one? And that's the question that we are still wondering about. If you were a Drac, I would be sweating right now. I would probably guess he's making a dash for the coast, maybe even Venice for a fog. I agree that Venice is definitely an entirely reasonable move. Depending on where he is. So you're guessing that's gonna be Milan, Venice, and he's wondering whether he should go to sea now and hide. If that is the case, then he should hide, so that the timeline will work out so that he will have wolf form for wolf forming ashore from the Adriatic. A worthwhile point. Yeah. I mean, Arternum has taken a while on some of his turns before, so thinking Arternum? Whoops. Not Arternum, or not Arternum. Sometimes my fingers just don't go where I want them to. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. Okay, yeah, that was... that was... Okay, nothing's wrong, it's just that he took quite a long while to think on that one. That's all. Alright, any dawn actions they want to do? Apparently not. So, where would I move Gul'daming? I would likely check Munich in his position. Okay, so it was Munich. So therefore, that doesn't rule out one or the other of these two. So I actually kind of like that. Since you chose a next location that doesn't rule out either one of these for this card. So I kind of like that. And it also gives slightly more possibilities as to where you went next. Van Helsing, horsing as well. Okay. Checking Zurich and the game choosing to go in a bit of a weird way. So it was Zurich, Munich, but now he could be at Venice. However, given that there are 200s with horses at the border with the east, I would be a tad reluctant to. I would actually be a tad reluctant to go to the Adriatic Sea. In fact, I might even consider, if I were the one playing Dracula here, I might even consider going to Genoa now that Van Helsing's vacated it, similar to how he did that with Marseille from Geneva. Okay. The way she's moving, I mean, she does have a garlic wreath, we know, so it's possible that he may choose to just use that. And it does give us more information about what she's holding, so there is that. But this means that the vampire just has to play defensive without if the vampire is to do any damage worthwhile, You could simply trade its life for 1 point by fanging her immediately. But okay, showing a rifle. So Mia can block claws. Good to know. And honestly, that is likely what he's going to do first. Because claws, for anyone who doesn't know who is not familiar with Garlic Wreath works, until the end of this combat, after you suffer damage, specifically, that is not a bite from fangs, the vampire suffers for it. Cancel and discard this card if claws are resolved against you. That's why the rifle matters. Which is what, and that's why I brought it up for anyone who may watch this on YouTube. Okay. Ooh. Okay. So she has a claws and a garlic, as well as a garlic wreath. So she does not have a stake. So that means that the vampire simply has to play for survival. Plotting. Ooh. I disagree with that. It's possible that he just had an excellent. I suppose it's possible that he just had a dreadful combat hand. But other than that, if he had anything to play, even a rifle, even a claws, on the off chance he does the punch first, you should try to get in damage. If you don't have anything to do and you know that the vampire is going to die. So I disagree with that one, unfortunately. Of course, in Arternum's defense, as I said, he could have had a dreadful combat hand and therefore, had all 3 escapes, like a mez and a plotting. Okay, a Munich mob. Okay. So, yeah, if I were... Since you know that Mina does not have a horse, and the Seward is likely to horse right over Genoa, I might actually consider going there if you're at Venice. Or for that matter, Milan. Especially now that you have bats on Van Helsing, so you'll be keeping him occupied all day. So that horse is unavailable. He will almost certainly send Gul'daming east to try to catch up with you, since they have you so close and yet at the same time kind of so far. That would have been a nice draw next night, I will say. But that's now at least 2. That's now at least 2 of his 6 mystic research things used. Alright. Considering how quickly he made his decision there, I guess that's either a hide card at Venice, or that he is indeed going east. Okay, well, if it is, it's not via Zagreb. And the thing is, going north through Nuremberg is still not out of the question. He simply took a slight detour, if that's the case. Seward will almost certainly be checking Venice here. Yep, and he was there. Oh, I would have let him search that. I mean, it's nice to get the forewarned off of him, but he forewarned a fog. That's kind of what forewarns are for. Okay, so that means that he's either at Florence, Genoa, or Milan. It could be any of them. I may well have called it because of Arternum kind of showed his hand. He's definitely I am definitely seeing that he is a more of a sneaky Dracula player than just do the obvious all the time type of player. By the way, he snuck back into Marseille after Van Helsing left it, and now he's done the exact same thing at Genoa. Either that, or he's backtracking and may... And, I think that he's actually going to... Mia doesn't have a horse, so... Therefore, she couldn't have reached Genoa without a yellow 2 ticket. So, And I'm probably going to see here. I suppose he'll want to take a special. If he does, he'll probably want to take his parrot probably to see with him. Yeah. Determiner is also correct in that wolf forming to Toulouse is also an option, like due to how Glamingan. But honestly, I would not be too scared. So long as you have the second fog, with one forewarned used, how likely is it that they have the other one? Okay, wolf form again. Yep. Yeah, there are several possible destinations cut off from possibility. However, this could be, in addition to going back to Spain, this could be going down into Italy, and that's not something that the hunters can just dismiss, because this is an alternative route to the east. If he misdirected Munich, that would be very funny. I will agree, Cardonchu, if he did go there. Yeah. I think that if I were playing hunters, I would just supply with Godalming, draw an event, see what you can find. You might find a scout, you might find an ally. Not Florence. So it is indeed Milan or Genoa. Alright. So he will doubtless check Milan. Or will he? Because there is the possible location of Geneva, since he didn't lair it. Since he didn't lair Geneva, his encounter economy is worse, but that means that that's a possible location he could be. But, I mean, it was indeed Genoa. So it's 2 away from Genoa. Zurich's still on the trail. Geneva's there. So it could be Geneva, Clermont-Ferrand, or Toulouse. As well as Rome. If you're going back west, it's one of these three. Yeah, I agree that Scannon's right, because that just automatically tells you that he's at that cuts it in half. This will cut it in half. It'll be kind of checking 2 at once. The bad news is he still has to move hunters onto one or the other. And if it's Rome, and Seward will almost be either Seward or Godalming will almost certainly be the one checking Rome. So therefore, the people who go first, like if it's not Rome, are suddenly just wasting time. This would actually be a pretty good time for a speed telegraph this next day, if it comes out positive, that is. If not, then there's only going west. But if it comes out negative, there's only going west. If it comes out positive that he is in Italia, there's a little bit of a split. And the most efficient way in terms of ordering is for Godalming to go down here. But what if he's not there? What if you want to... But on the other hand, man, it's a bit of a toss-up. Because in the sense that if he didn't go Geneva and it's Rome, then Helsing or Mina is going in the wrong direction. I suppose that makes it a bit of a toss-up. It is not Italia, so that's good for the hunters. I think it would have been better to go to with Geneva. He could now lair Marseille and go there again, but given how all 4 of them are positioned to jump on that, I would say that that's a tad too risky. That was indeed a good scan, as that cut the possibilities in half, and now that also has given them a clear direction in which to go. If it had been positive, as I said, it would have been slightly different. Alright. Does he lair and then remove the lair? I've seen some people do that before. Keep the possibilities open. But if I'm Dracula, now that they know that I'm in this direction, I'm heading to Nantes or Bordeaux. I'm heading to a coastline. Okay, so he did not go back to Marseille, and what's more, I fully agree with that because that gives them a layer that they may have to work around and therefore do some inefficient movement to make their return to the western Spain slower. So I agree with that move. Very nice by very well done. Because now he could be one step closer, and therefore could get to Nantes if he were to just tank the lair, say I don't care. But for all he knows, that would be a bats that would make it slower anyway. Yes. Oh, again. This time I would have. Oh well. Okay, but that's both forewarns gone. So now he can ambush with like the other bats. And that's now both forewarns gone. Considering that that's both forewarns in the top 24 cards, top/bottom 24 are cards of the deck due to the night supplies that have been happening. So it was Toulouse, which honestly makes a little bit more sense because for this one, it could have been, well, I suppose it makes very little difference, and now it narrows down a little bit more where he is now, in terms of whether he's going north or south, or back into Spain. Yeah, with Dracula still having 13 HP, there's still, and the fact that it is only that was the last day of week 3. Well, as soon as the players finish their night actions and Dracula does his movement, it'll enter week 3. Did I say week 3 before? I meant week 2. Sorry. So they will have 1 week left before he starts scoring points. That being said, he still has to move 4 moves before that is relevant. Reckless Vampire. Ooh, Night Fight. Ooh. This could be interesting. And this is, in point of fact, the last Reckless left. They killed both the other 2. Plotting. Honestly, okay, yeah. In the world where he chooses to fight, that could have been very nasty for Van Helsing, but but oh well. Okay, entering week 3. Arternum loves the plot, so it would seem. Yeah, he's been trying that quite a bit. Unfortunately, it's not yet. Unfortunately, the only time he did get one off was when it didn't matter at all. That being said, he has managed to pull off quite a few plot twists to the story of this game. Given how loop-de-loo this has been. Okay, he did not go Clermont-Ferrand after Toulouse, which, yeah, if I'm Dracula, I'm making for the coasts, and if possible, I would be laying down desecrated soils. Okay, yeah, ambush with that. Makes sense. Knife. Okay, Sewer's mezzed. The fact that he played Knife seems to indicate either that he simply wants to avoid Fang points, or that he simply wants to, okay, plotting, okay, not good for the hunters here. This is, oh wait, this is a daytime fight. It was, so there's no biting going on, but Vampire's gonna get in more damage this time, most likely at least. So yeah, I would Mez. Okay, not sure if I agree with that one, but I mean, he's already mezzed, and you have a plotting. Just go for the damage. If he tries to escape, you can stop him. Whoa. Okay. So he has horse, rifle, knife, and I suppose most likely Heavenly Host, but Holy Bullets there would have been fun, as always. Strength into knife. Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is that he still has the plotting up. So if he does dodge by mistake, he made sure to save the plotting charge for when he dodged for in the last round. So therefore he got 4 damage, which is less than ideal for the hunter, and he still got a point despite his efforts. So yeah, in the end that worked out. Okay, didn't go to Saragossa after Toulouse, so that means it's either Barcelona or it's the other one, Barcelona or Bordeaux. No telling. Discarding a garlic wreath, getting an event. What did he discard there? A good luck? Okay, sure. So, what Dracula wants to be doing is he needs to lay down perhaps 1, maybe 2 more encounters, depending on how the hunters behave. But he does have to be very careful here. If he has gone down to Spain via a slower route, or is hiding at Barcelona, I mean, they know that he doesn't have fog. So if he's at Barcelona, the time has come to leave. Without a question. Without the slightest doubt. I have no idea how many night supplies they have left over. They've been so spread out, I've just lost track at this point. Okay, trying events with Mito. So, I mean, if they ever lose track of him for too long, they do have a newspaper, or they have a newspaper reports floating around. And apparently they have great strength floating around. That is unpleasant to see, as Dracula. Yeah. I encourage the truth about you saying meh kind of worked out. I would say that was better than average. That is the, like, when it comes to, usually when it comes to a vampire ambush, it either is just 2 damage and they're gone, or what happened. So this was the better of the 2 normal scenarios. So that was actually, I think, better than simply meh. That was definitely the good results, especially since the fangs healed the vampire back up after he took damage in the process. Yeah, so interesting that Sua did not stake the vampire. I mean, we don't. It would appear that he doesn't have one. I suppose, by that behavior. But okay, yeah. So the fact that they lay down another card means that they now know that it's Bordeaux and not Barcelona after Toulouse. But the thing is, they still have to deal with this thing. Okay, not Nantes, so therefore he went to Santander. We now know that. Oh, he's just leaving it? Interesting. So we know that this one, if it's a vampire, is not a reckless vampire. We've seen all three of those, but we haven't seen either new vampire yet. So now, Van Helsing can... the fact that... so, logic says that he's at Lisbon right now. But, on the other hand, what if he went sneaky and went to Madrid? He did not. I applaud his Van Helsing checking that. It's good to rule that out. He is not yet hidden, so he could hide at Lisbon. I think perhaps you do that, or move to Cadiz and keep them guessing. We know that they discarded one speedy telegraph, but where's the second one? Oh, he put he put a discarded soil in a lair, so now he gets to draw some cards. If he's not paying attention to the fact that this is a lair, and it is afraid of the healing for Dracula, she may end up revealing... Okay, no. Fortunately, Tarvalar is paying enough attention for that not to be the case. Yeah, this has been a good game. Regardless which side wins, it's been a good match. Okay. I'm inferring from based on how they are playing, either that Mina has one of the two remaining stakes, or those two stakes that are left are still in this discard pile, in this draw pile, because they have not reshuffled the item deck even once yet, despite it being the early week 3 at this stage. Very interesting. Yeah, the hunters are, as I mentioned, I mentioned this early, but the way he just sprung all 3 of his hunters in Munich, into action to deal with the early Spain, using at more than one event in the process, that is now backfiring, because he spent at least the majority of his early resources, so now they're just undersupplied. They don't he's having to. I mean, that mystic research is perhaps keeping him in it, but because that mystic research has given him 6 more events that he has been able to pick up on the go. Okay, has Gul'daman picked up a stake or something? Okay, gonna go to Cadiz, and he is there. Bodyguards, okay. I mean, yeah. I would have, if possible, gone with a more AoE type of event, or encounter rather. Yeah, this could be big. Let's keep in mind that they have had Aggie in the background, so this is a 2-on-1 with Aggie. And we know that Seward has a knife and a rifle. But the thing is, Dracula knows that too. And we know that Van Helsing also has a knife. It is possible, and fortunately, this 2-on-1 is without Gul'daman, so that there's no risk of a Lucy's Revenge happening. But any of the other combat events could be involved here. Okay, Seward has planned ambush. However, now the question remains, where are the Heavenly Hosts? We haven't seen a single show of one. We haven't seen us. For all we know, they're all in that deck. But I have strong suspicions that Seward has one. So I would be targeting Seward with claws. Oh, and it appears Arternum agrees. So if you want to deal damage, you have to deal a rather minimal amount, or pay the price for dealing 3 or potentially 4. I mean, Dracula should, if he's paying attention, he'll know that they do have great strength, and therefore it'll be a tad difficult to go for a kill. Okay, Van Helsing went with Heavenly Host, so he had it. So now, however, I don't like him doing that first. Reason why is now he can, once he strengths Van Helsing's knife, Van Helsing can do, okay, after that Van Helsing can only do 1 damage every other round. And once you break the knife, so I would just do strength. If you have strength, I would do strength versus Van Helsing to open up the possibility. Okay, strength versus Seward, also valid. Okay, broke his knife. Okay, not bad, not bad. But now, yeah, good play on his part to play the knives now, because it's not until round 4 that he needs to escape his bat weapons. However, this means that if Seward plays his rifle this turn, so the most damage Van Helsing is threatening is 1. He already destroyed his other card, so he has a horse, he has knife, and he has punch, at least in terms of movement and damage. So therefore, yes, target him. Fang? Oh, okay. Unfortunately, that didn't pay off, but it dealt damage. And now the double punch will see to it that with Aggie in play, he cannot escape. Yep. So now they will simply be playing their bat weapons. Strength, yeah, into the rifle. But Van Helsing will be playing his knife, and that is, unless he chose to dodge for whatever reason. Yep, Juju will play both. Yep, that's game. He stayed 1 day too long. Yet another game in this tournament decided by Dracula overstaying his welcome. Yep. Did you play both? Yes. I was worried you were undersupplied. Undersupplied. Yes, I was worried you were undersupplied. Yeah, Tarvalar unfortunately has impediments and cannot join me here. Yeah, so we won't be bringing that in this game. So sadly, we won't have an interview, but good try, Arternum. Arternum. Good try, Arternum. Tickets in order? That one, okay. Okay, so tickets were the hardest part for him. Overall, the lack of Drac events meant that I had a lot to work with. Yes, he got very lucky. Tarvalar got very lucky. There's no hiding that. But this means that it is a 13 IDS win for him. So that's that. He'll be moving on up onto the knockout phase with a final score of 6-2. Arternum, don't feel too bad, and man, you at least managed a 50-50 score, and you're a newcomer, so don't feel too bad. You got it was good game. It was a good game, well played. You tried your best. So, with all that being said, now, thank you everyone for watching, especially those who watch after on YouTube, and I suppose even more, especially those who watch live on Twitch. Thank you for watching, and see you all next time. Goodbye.